Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead and left another grease stain across his skin. He didn't care. The plasma drive was dead, completely dead, and he was stuck in the maintenance bay of Station Kepler 9 until he fixed it. The station floated in orbit around a gas giant, far from Earth. It was a trading hub where dozens of alien species came to buy, sell, and refuel. Marcus was the only human here. He had been hired as a maintenance engineer because humans had a reputation. They could fix anything. They were stubborn. They didn't give up. Right now, Marcus felt that reputation was a heavy weight on his shoulders. The shuttle sat in the middle of the bay, its engine compartment open like a mechanical mouth. Tools were scattered everywhere. Marcus had been working for 6 hours straight. His back hurt. His hands were covered in burns from hot metal. But he was making progress. Maybe. The plasma coils are burned out, he muttered to himself, and the fuel injectors are clogged. And I think the main coupling is cracked. He grabbed a wrench and crawled back into the engine compartment. The space was tight. He had to squeeze his shoulders to fit inside. The maintenance bay was quiet except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Marcus liked it that way. He worked better alone. No distractions. No one asking him stupid questions. Then he heard the door hiss open. Marcus tried to pull himself out of the engine, but his shirt caught on a bolt. He twisted around and saw Commander Velsara standing in the doorway. She was Cravathi, one of the feline-like aliens who ran the station. She stood almost 7 feet tall with golden fur and dark stripes across her face. Her ears were pointed and constantly moving, listening to every sound. Her eyes were large and green with vertical pupils like a cat. "Engineer Chen," she said. Her voice was deep and musical. The translator device on her collar turned her words into English. "I apologize for the interruption." Marcus finally freed himself from the bolt and slid out of the engine. He stood up, though he only came up to her chest. "Commander, what can I do for you?" Velsara's ears flattened against her head. This was a sign of distress, Marcus had learned. "I have a problem. A situation has occurred that requires all adult Cravathi staff to respond immediately. There is a conflict in Sector 7. It may become violent." "Okay," Marcus said slowly. "What does that have to do with me?" "The nursery attendants must also respond. They are trained in security protocols." Velsara's tail swished back and forth. "My cubs were in the nursery. Now there is no one to watch them. I cannot leave them alone in my quarters. They are too young, too curious." Marcus began to understand. "You want me to watch them?" "Not watch them exactly." Velsara looked uncomfortable. "I need to bring them here. To this bay. They will stay in the safe zone, away from your work. They know to obey. They will not bother you." She paused. "It will only be for 1 rotation. 6 of your hours." Marcus looked at the destroyed engine behind him. He looked at the tools scattered across the floor. He thought about trying to work while babysitting alien children. But Velsara looked desperate. Her ears were flat and her pupils were wide. "Sure," Marcus said. "Bring them here. I'll keep an eye on them." Velsara's ears perked up. "You are certain?" Cravathi cubs are very different from human young. They are energetic. They ask many questions, Marcus shrugged. "Kids are kids. I have 3 nephews back on Earth. I can handle it." "Thank you, Engineer Chen. This is a great favor." Velsara touched her forehead with her clawed hand, a Cravathi gesture of respect. Then she turned and left. 5 minutes later, she returned with 3 small Cravathi. They were about 3 feet tall, covered in soft fur that was lighter than their mother's. Their ears were too big for their heads. Their paws were oversized and clumsy. They looked up at Marcus with huge, curious eyes. "This is Zix," Velsara said, gesturing to the tallest cub. "He is the eldest. He likes to observe and learn." Zix stared at Marcus without blinking. "This is Pip." The middle cub bounced on her paws. Her tail wagged like a dog's. She is very energetic, very talkative. "And this is Mira." The smallest cub hid behind her mother's leg. Only her eyes and ears were visible. "She is quiet, but do not be fooled. She is the most curious of all." Velsara knelt down and spoke to her cubs in their own language. The translator didn't pick it up. Marcus assumed she was giving them rules. "Be good, stay safe. Don't bother the human." The cubs nodded seriously. "They will remain in the safe zone," Velsara said, pointing to a marked area near the door. "They have food and water. They have their learning tablets. They will not disturb you." "We'll be fine," Marcus said. He gave the cubs a small wave. Hey guys, Pip waved back enthusiastically. Zix continued to stare. Mira disappeared completely behind Velsara's leg. Velsara left, though Marcus noticed she looked back 3 times before the door closed. Then he was alone with 3 alien children and a broken engine. For the first hour, the cubs stayed in the safe zone. Marcus could see them out of the corner of his eye. They sat in a small pile, grooming each other's fur. They played with their tablets. They were quiet. Too quiet. Marcus was deep in the engine compartment when he heard a sound. A soft padding of paws on metal. He ignored it and kept working. He was trying to remove a damaged fuel line. The bolts were stripped and difficult. Then he heard another sound. A soft chirping noise. Cravathi cubs made that sound when they were interested in something. Marcus pulled himself out of the engine. All 3 cubs were out of the safe zone. They had crept closer, forming a semicircle about 10 feet away. When he looked at them, they froze. "You guys are supposed to stay over there," Marcus said, pointing to the safe zone. "We are sorry," Zix said. His voice was high and soft. The translator made it sound even quieter. "We wanted to see the human tools. We have never seen human tools before." Marcus looked at them. Their ears were perked forward. Their eyes were bright with interest. They looked like his nephews when he showed them how to build things. "All right," Marcus said. "You can watch. But don't touch anything. Some of this stuff is hot. Some of it is sharp. And definitely don't go near the engine when I'm working inside it. Deal?" All 3 cubs nodded so hard their ears flopped. Marcus went back to work. The cubs crept even closer. Soon they were only 5 feet away, sitting in a neat row. Marcus tried to ignore them, but he could feel their eyes on him. Every time he picked up a tool, 3 small heads tilted to the side. When he cursed at a stubborn bolt, 3 pairs of ears went flat. "Why do you use that tool?" Zix asked suddenly. "It's a torque wrench," Marcus said without looking up. "It lets me tighten bolts to exactly the right pressure." "Why does pressure matter?" "Because too loose and the part falls off. Too tight and it breaks." "Oh." Zix was quiet for exactly 10 seconds. "How do you know the right pressure?" Marcus sighed. This was going to be a long 6 hours. But as he worked, answering questions and occasionally glancing at the cubs, he noticed something. They were learning. Really learning. Zix was memorizing the names of tools. Pip was mimicking his movements with her paws. And Mira, the quiet one, had crept so close she was almost touching his boot. Her eyes were locked on the engine, watching everything. Marcus pulled himself out of the engine again. His stomach growled. He realized he hadn't eaten in 8 hours. He grabbed a ration bar from his toolkit and sat down on the floor. The cubs immediately moved closer. "Are you damaged?" Pip asked, concerned. "No, just hungry." Marcus took a bite of the bar. It tasted like cardboard and artificial strawberry. "Humans need to eat regularly. Cravathi too," Zix said. "Mother says we are always hungry because we are growing." Marcus smiled. "Same with human kids." As he ate, the cubs relaxed. They started grooming each other again, but they stayed close to him. Mira was now only 2 feet away. She was staring at his toolbox. Her tail was twitching. Marcus finished his ration bar and stood up. "Okay, back to work." He turned toward the engine. Behind him, he heard the soft sound of paws on metal. He smiled. The cubs were going to be trouble. But maybe, he thought, the good kind of trouble. Marcus was back inside the engine compartment when he realized something was wrong. He needed his smaller wrench, the one with the blue handle. He had left it right next to his knee, just outside the engine opening. But when he reached for it, his hand found only empty air. He wiggled backward out of the engine. His shirt caught on something again. He really needed to change into his work coveralls. When he finally got free, he looked around for the wrench. It wasn't there. In fact, none of his tools were where he had left them. The entire scattered collection of wrenches, screwdrivers, clamps, and diagnostic devices had been moved. They were now arranged in neat lines along the wall, organized by color, all the silver tools in one row, the black-handled tools in another row, the blue-handled tools, including his wrench, in a third row. Marcus stared at the organized tools. Then he looked at the cubs. All 3 of them sat in a neat line, looking very pleased with themselves. Their tails swished back and forth. Pip's tongue was sticking out slightly. "Did you organize my tools?" Marcus asked. "Yes." Pip bounced up and down on her paws. "They were scattered everywhere. Very messy. Very disorganized. We fixed them. We helped. We made them pretty," Mira added softly. It was the first time Marcus had heard her speak. Marcus took a deep breath. He counted to 5. The tools were organized by color, which was useless. He needed them organized by type and size. But the cubs looked so proud. Their ears were perked up. Their eyes were shining. "Thank you," Marcus said carefully. "That was very thoughtful. But when I'm working, I organize my tools by what they do, not by what color they are." Zix tilted his head. "Why?" "Because when I need a specific tool, I need to grab it fast. I don't have time to search through all the blue tools to find the right one." "Oh." Zix's ears drooped slightly. "We did not know. We wanted to help." Marcus felt bad. They were just trying to be useful. "It's okay. You didn't know. Now you do. That's how learning works." He spent the next 10 minutes putting his tools back where he needed them. The cubs watched carefully. Zix asked questions about why each tool went in a specific spot. Marcus answered them all, even though he was losing precious work time. When the tools were finally arranged again, Marcus crawled back into the engine. He found the damaged plasma coil and started disconnecting it. The work required both hands and complete focus. He forgot about the cubs. That was a mistake. "Here," a small voice said right next to his ear. "This one?" Marcus jumped and hit his head on the engine housing. He cursed and pulled back. Pip was crouched right at the edge of the engine opening. In her paw, she held a screwdriver. The completely wrong screwdriver. "I need the socket wrench," Marcus said, rubbing his head. "The thing that looks like a stick with a square end." "Oh." Pip dropped the screwdriver and scampered away. 30 seconds later, she returned. She held a different tool. "Still the wrong one." "That's a voltage tester," Marcus said. "Oh." Pip ran off again. This happened 4 more times. Each time, Pip brought the wrong tool. But Marcus noticed something. With each attempt, she got closer to the right tool. She was learning. She was also getting his tools covered in small, greasy paw prints. Finally, Marcus gave up and crawled out of the engine. He found the socket wrench himself. But when he turned around, he saw that Zix had a notebook. Except it wasn't paper. It was some kind of Cravathi learning tablet. Zix was writing on it with a stylus. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Taking notes," Zix said seriously. "I am recording all the tools and their functions. Socket wrench used for hexagonal bolts. Torque wrench used for precise tightening. Voltage tester used to measure electrical current. Screwdriver used for—" "That's actually really helpful," Marcus interrupted. He was impressed. "Can I see?" Zix showed him the tablet. The notes were detailed and organized. There were even small drawings of each tool. The drawings weren't great, but they were recognizable. "This is good work," Marcus said. "Really good. You could be an engineer someday." Zix's ears perked up so high they looked like they might fly off his head. "Truly? Cravathi are told we do not have the patience for human engineering. Our paws are too large for delicate work." "That's not true," Marcus said. "Engineering isn't about the size of your hands. It's about how you think, about solving problems. You're already doing that." Zix stared at Marcus like he had just revealed the secrets of the universe. Then he went back to his notes, writing even more intensely than before. Marcus returned to the engine. This time he made it almost 20 minutes before the next interruption. "Marcus?" It was Pip again. "Can I hand you tools?" "Sure," Marcus said without thinking. He was focused on removing a stuck bolt. "Hand me the smaller wrench." Pip handed him something. Marcus grabbed it without looking. It was soft and fuzzy. He looked down. Pip had handed him her own tail. "Pip, that's not a tool. That's your tail." "Oh." Pip giggled. It sounded like chirping mixed with purring. "Sorry, here's the wrench." This time she got it right. Marcus took the tool and went back to work. Pip continued handing him tools. She got about half of them right. The other half were wildly wrong. Once she handed him a piece of her dried food, thinking it was a fuse. But Marcus found he didn't mind. Pip was trying so hard, and she was learning fast. What worried Marcus was Mira. The smallest cub had been quiet for too long. He pulled himself out of the engine and looked around. Mira was gone. "Where's your sister?" Marcus asked Zix and Pip. They both looked around. Their ears swiveled, listening. "I do not know," Zix said. "She was here a moment ago." Marcus felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The maintenance bay was huge. There were dozens of places a small cub could get hurt. Sharp tools, hot surfaces, electrical panels. "Mira," he called out. "Where are you?" No answer. "Mira," Pip called out. Her voice was worried. "This is not funny." Still no answer. Marcus started searching. He checked behind the tool cabinets, under the workbenches, inside the storage lockers, nothing. Zix and Pip helped, calling their sister's name. Their voices were getting higher and more distressed. Then Marcus heard it. A soft scraping sound, coming from inside the shuttle. From inside the engine? No, Marcus whispered. He ran to the engine compartment and looked inside. Two large, luminous eyes stared back at him from deep within the machinery. Mira had crawled into the engine. She had squeezed past the plasma coils and the fuel injectors and somehow made it all the way to the relay chamber. It was a space so tight that Marcus himself had trouble reaching it. Mira was stuck inside, surrounded by sharp metal and electrical components. "Mira," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Don't move, okay? Stay very still." "I am stuck," Mira said in a tiny voice. "I wanted to see the pretty lights. The glowing parts. But now I cannot turn around." Marcus heard Zix and Pip behind him. "Is she hurt?" Zix asked. "I don't think so. Not yet." Marcus tried to think. He couldn't fit into the relay chamber. The space was too tight. If he tried to pull Mira out, he might hurt her. Or he might damage the engine even more. "Mira, listen to me very carefully," Marcus said. "You need to crawl backward." "Can you do that?" "I do not know how," Mira said. She sounded scared. "I have never crawled backward before." Marcus remembered something his sister had told him about teaching her kids. Make it a game. Make it fun. Don't let them panic. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," Marcus said. "We're going to play a game called Reverse Adventure. You're going to be an explorer going backward through a tunnel. Your brother and sister are going to help guide you." "Can you do that?" I can try," Mira said. Marcus looked at Zix and Pip. "I need you two to encourage her. Tell her she's doing great. Make her feel brave." "Can you do that?" Both cubs nodded seriously. They crouched at the engine opening, calling to their sister. "You are the bravest explorer," Pip said. "The bravest in the whole galaxy. Move your left back paw first," Zix instructed. "Just a small movement." Marcus watched as Mira slowly, carefully began to wiggle backward. It was working. She was moving. But then Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. There were markings on Mira's fur. Grease stains. But not just any grease stains. They showed exactly where she had crawled. And her path had taken her right past the damaged coupling Marcus had been trying to reach. The coupling he couldn't access because the space was too tight. An idea formed in Marcus's mind. A crazy, probably irresponsible idea, but also an idea that could solve his biggest problem. "Mira," Marcus said slowly, "before you come back, I need you to do something for me. Do you see the silver tube right next to your right paw?" "Yes," Mira said. "The one with the crack in it?" "That's the one. I need you to twist it. Turn it left like you're opening a jar." "Can you do that?" There was a long pause. Then Marcus heard Velsera's voice in his mind, explaining how precious Cravathi cubs were, how protected, how they were never allowed near real work. But Mira was already there. Already in position. And Marcus needed that coupling disconnected or the engine would never work. "I can try," Mira said. Marcus held his breath as he heard Mira grunt with effort inside the engine. There was a soft squeaking sound, metal on metal. Then a click. "It moved," Mira said. Her voice was excited. "It turned a little bit." "Good," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Now turn it 3 more times. Count with me. 1, 1, Mira repeated. Marcus heard the squeak again. 2, 2. Another squeak. 3, 3. A final squeak, and then a louder click. "It came off," Mira said. "The silver tube came off in my paw." "Perfect," Marcus said. Relief flooded through him. "Now hold on to it tight. Don't drop it. We need to see if it's damaged. Now start crawling backward, slow and careful." Zix and Pip resumed their encouragement. "You are amazing," Pip chirped. "You are the best explorer ever. Even better than Captain Velthar from the stories." "Left back paw," Zix coached. "Then right back paw. Then left front paw. Then right front paw. Like a dance, but backward." Marcus watched as Mira slowly emerged from the relay chamber. First her tail appeared, swishing nervously. Then her back legs. Then her body. She was still holding the coupling in her front paw. Finally her head emerged and she blinked in the brighter light of the maintenance bay. The moment she was free, Pip and Zix pounced on her. grooming her frantically and making worried chirping sounds. Mira endured this for a few seconds, then squirmed away and held up the coupling to Marcus. "Is this what you needed?" she asked. Marcus took the coupling carefully. It was indeed cracked, just as he had suspected. But now he could see exactly where the damage was. He could order a replacement. He could fix the engine. Mira had just solved his biggest problem. "This is exactly what I needed," Marcus said. He smiled at Mira. "You did a great job." "A really, really great job." Mira's ears perked up. Her tail started wagging so fast it was almost a blur. "I helped?" "Truly helped?" "Truly helped," Marcus confirmed. "That coupling was in a space I couldn't reach. I've been trying to figure out how to get to it for hours. You got it in less than a minute." "Can I help again?" Mira asked eagerly. All her earlier shyness was gone. "I want to help more." Marcus looked at the three cubs. They were all staring at him with bright, hopeful eyes, covered in engine grease, absolutely filthy, and completely, utterly happy. He made a decision. "Okay," Marcus said. "You can help, but we need rules. Safety rules. Rule number 1, no going into the engine without permission. Rule number 2, always tell me before you touch something. Rule number 3, if I say stop, you stop immediately." "Understood?" All three cubs nodded so hard their ears flopped. "Good," Marcus said. "Zix, you're in charge of documentation. Keep taking notes. I want you to record everything we do. Pip, you're my tool assistant. I'll teach you what each tool is for and you'll hand them to me. Mira, you're quality control. You have small paws and good eyes. You'll help me check the tight spaces and look for problems." The cubs practically vibrated with excitement. For the next hour, they worked together like a real engineering team. Zix took detailed notes, asking questions about every step. Pip learned the names and functions of 24 tools. She still got some of them wrong, but she was improving fast. Mira crawled into 3 more tight spaces, checking connections and reporting what she saw. Marcus found himself teaching them not just about tools, but about the principles of engineering. About how plasma drives worked, about why certain materials were used in certain places, about the importance of testing and double-checking. The cubs absorbed everything. They asked smart questions. They pointed out things Marcus had missed. When Marcus made a mistake installing a bolt backward, Mira caught it immediately. When Marcus couldn't remember where he'd left a specific tool, Zix checked his notes and told him exactly where it was. When Marcus needed 3 hands for a tricky procedure, Pip held a panel in place while he worked. They were, Marcus realized, genuinely helpful. Not just cute distractions. Real assistance. Marcus was installing a new fuel line when he heard the maintenance bay door hiss open. He was so focused on his work that he didn't look up. "Pip, hand me the clamp," he said. "Which size?" Pip asked. She was learning to ask clarifying questions. "The medium one, silver with the red handle." "This one." Pip held up a clamp. "Perfect." Marcus took it and tightened the fuel line connection. Zix marked down that fuel line 37 Alpha is secured at 0900 station time. "Noted," Zix said, scribbling on his tablet. "Mira, can you check the connection? Make sure it's not twisted?" "Checking," Mira said. She peered into the narrow space where the fuel line connected. "It looks good. Very straight. No twists. Excellent." Marcus tightened the final bolt. "Okay, we're ready to test the fuel pressure. This is important. Everyone needs to stand back. If something went wrong with my repairs, fuel could spray everywhere. It's dangerous." The cubs immediately moved to the safe zone. They understood danger now. They understood caution. But they also understood that being careful was different from not trying. Marcus activated the fuel pump. There was a humming sound. Pressure built in the lines. He watched the gauges carefully. 50%, 75%, 100%. The gauges stabilized, no leaks. "No problems, it worked," Marcus said. He felt a grin spread across his face. "We did it. The fuel system is repaired." The cubs cheered. They bounced and chirped and chased each other in circles. Marcus laughed. He couldn't help it. Their joy was infectious. Then he heard a sharp intake of breath from behind him. He turned around. Commander Velsera stood in the doorway. She was staring at her cubs. At their grease-covered fur, at the tools scattered around them, at the engine compartment where they had clearly been working. Her ears were flat against her head. Her pupils were narrow slits. Her tail had poofed up to twice its normal size. Behind her stood 3 other Krivathi adults. They all had the same shocked expression. "What?" Velsera said in a very quiet, very dangerous voice. "Is happening here?" Marcus suddenly realized how this must look. 3 cubs, barely old enough to be in school by Cravathi standards, covered in industrial lubricant, standing next to dangerous machinery. "In a work zone, Commander," Marcus said carefully. "I can explain." "Explain?" Velsara's voice rose. "Explain why my cubs are covered in engine grease? Explain why they are standing next to an active shuttle engine? Explain why they appear to have been working with dangerous tools?" "Mother, we were helping," Pip said excitedly. She didn't seem to notice her mother's anger. "Marcus taught us about plasma drives and fuel systems and torque specifications and—" "Silence," Velsera said. Pip's ears drooped. She fell silent immediately. Velsera walked into the bay. The other adult Cravathi followed her. They were all staring at the cubs and Marcus with expressions of horror and disbelief. "Do you understand what you have done?" Velsara asked Marcus. "Do you understand what you have risked?" "They were perfectly safe," Marcus said. "I watched them the entire time. I set clear rules. I didn't let them do anything dangerous without proper supervision." "You let them near machinery," one of the other Cravathi said. His name was Dralvor, and he was the station's security chief. "You let cubs, small cubs, near active engines and sharp tools and electrical systems." "I let them learn," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference." "There is no difference," Velsara said. Her voice was shaking. "Cubs are precious. They are to be protected, sheltered, kept safe until they are old enough to understand danger. This is our way. This has always been our way." "Your way keeps them ignorant," Marcus said. He knew he shouldn't argue, but the words came out anyway. "How can they understand danger if they never experience it? How can they learn to be careful if they're never allowed to try?" The maintenance bay went completely silent. The other adult Cravathi stared at Marcus like he had just committed blasphemy. Velsara's fur had risen along her spine. She looked genuinely angry now. "You dare," she said softly, "to question how the Cravathi raise their young? You dare to suggest that our methods, our culture, our traditions are wrong?" "I'm not saying they're wrong," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm saying they're different. Humans do things differently. We believe children learn by doing, by trying and sometimes failing, by taking small risks in safe environments." "There is no such thing as a safe risk for a cub," Dralvor said. "Then how do they learn?" Marcus asked. "When do they learn? When they're adults and suddenly expected to handle everything perfectly with no experience? They learn in controlled educational settings," Velsara said, "with simulations and theoretical instruction, when they are mature enough to understand." "But that's not the same as real experience," Marcus argued. "It is safer," Velsara shot back. They stared at each other. The tension in the bay was thick enough to cut. The cubs huddled together, looking scared and confused. Marcus felt terrible. He'd just gotten these kids in trouble. Big trouble. Then Zik stepped forward. He moved between Marcus and his mother. This, Marcus had learned, was something Cravathi cubs simply did not do. They never inserted themselves into adult conversations. It was considered extremely rude. "Possibly even taboo, Mother," Zik said quietly. "May I speak?" Velsara stared at her eldest cub. Her ears had gone from flat with anger to upright with shock. Zix was standing between her and Marcus, his small body tense but his gaze steady. The other adult Cravathi made sounds of surprise and disapproval. "Zix," Velsara said slowly, "you know cubs do not interrupt adult discussions. You know this is not proper behavior." "Yes, Mother," Zix said. "I know, but this discussion is about us. About what we did. We should be allowed to speak." Velsara looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Zix's expression stopped her. Marcus had seen that expression before on his sister's kids. It was the look of a child who had discovered they had a voice and intended to use it. "Very well," Velsara said finally. "Speak, but be respectful." "Thank you, Mother." Zix turned slightly so he could address all the adults. "Today, Engineer Marcus taught us about shuttle engines. He showed us his tools. He explained how each tool has a specific purpose. He taught us about plasma drives, fuel systems, electrical connections, and structural integrity. He also taught us about safety." "Safety?" Dralvor said skeptically. "You are covered in engine grease. You were working with dangerous equipment. How is that safe?" "Safety is not the same as never taking risks," Zix said. He pulled out his tablet. "Marcus gave us rules. 3 specific rules. Rule 1. Never go into the engine without permission. Rule 2. Always tell him before touching something. Rule 3. If he says stop, stop immediately. We followed all 3 rules. You still should not have been near the engine at all, another adult said. Her name was Kessa, and she was the station's medical officer. But if we were not near the engine, how could we learn? Zix asked. Marcus showed us things we have never seen in educational simulations. Real components, real problems, real solutions. Zix began scrolling through his tablet. I took notes on everything. Here, the difference between a torque wrench and a socket wrench, the purpose of plasma coils, the correct pressure for fuel lines, the function of relay couplings. I learned more in 6 hours than I learned in 6 months of educational programs. Velsara took the tablet from Zix. She read through the notes, her eyes growing wider. You wrote all this? Today? Yes, Mother. Marcus answered every question I asked. He never told me I was too young to understand. He never said I should wait until I was older. He just explained things in a way I could understand. That is because the human does not know better, Dralvor said. He does not understand our ways. Or maybe, Pip said suddenly, stepping forward to join her brother. Maybe the human knows something we do not. More shocked sounds from the adult Kravathi. 2 cubs speaking in an adult discussion? This was unprecedented. Velsara looked like she didn't know whether to be angry or amazed. Pip, Velsara said weakly. You too? I learned all the tools, Pip said proudly. Watch. She ran to the tool collection. This is a screwdriver. It turns screws. This is a wrench. It turns bolts. This is a torquey wrench. It turns bolts with exact pressure. This is a voltage tester. It measures electricity. This is enough, Velsara said. I understand. You learned the tools. But that is not the important part, Pip continued. The important part is that Marcus let me try. He let me hand him tools. Sometimes I gave him the wrong tool. But he did not get angry. He just corrected me and explained why. I learned because I was allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes with tools near a plasma engine, Kessa said worriedly. Do you understand how dangerous that is? If you had grabbed the wrong thing at the wrong time, you could have been hurt. Or killed, but I was not hurt, Pip said. Because Marcus was watching. He made sure I stayed safe while I learned. That is what you do when you teach someone. You watch them. You guide them. You let them try. Velsara sat down on a tool crate. She looked exhausted. This is too much. Cubs should not be exposed to this kind of danger. It is our duty to protect them. You cannot protect us from everything forever, Mira said softly. Everyone turned to stare at the smallest cub. Mira had been silent until now. She was still half hidden behind her siblings. But her voice, though quiet, was clear. Mira? Velsara said. What do you mean? You always say we are fragile, Mira said. You say we must be careful, must stay safe, must not take risks. But today I crawled into the engine, into a very tight space. I was scared, but Marcus helped me. He stayed calm. He explained what to do, and I disconnected the coupling that he could not reach. Mira stepped forward and pulled something from her fur. It was the damaged coupling. She held it up for everyone to see. Marcus needed this. He could not get it because his hands are too big. But my paws are small. I could reach it. I helped solve a problem that an adult could not solve. She looked at her mother with large, earnest eyes. If I had stayed in the safe zone like I was supposed to, Marcus would still be trying to figure out how to reach that coupling. The shuttle would not be repaired. But I took a risk, a careful risk with help, and I succeeded. I am not fragile, Mother. None of us are. We are capable. The maintenance bay was completely silent. Marcus watched as Velsara stared at her smallest cub. The cub who had always been shy. Who had always hidden. Who had just spoken more words in 2 minutes than Marcus had heard from her all day. Velsara looked at the coupling in Mira's paw. Then at the notes on Zix's tablet. Then at Pip, who was standing proud with her chest puffed out. Finally, she looked at Marcus. How did you know they could do these things? She asked. I didn't, Marcus admitted. Not for sure. But I know that cubs are usually more capable than adults give them credit for. Humans learn this over and over. We keep underestimating children and they keep surprising us. But the danger, Kessa said, you cannot dismiss the danger. I'm not dismissing it, Marcus said. I'm managing it. There's a difference. Yes, there are risks, but there are risks in everything. The question is, do you eliminate risk by avoiding everything, or do you teach kids how to handle risk safely? We teach them when they are older, Dralvor said, when they have the judgment to understand. How do they gain judgment without experience? Marcus asked. You're creating a circular problem. They can't get experience until they have judgment, but they can't develop judgment without experience. Dralvor opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He looked frustrated. Velsara stood up. She walked over to her cubs and knelt down in front of them. Show me your paws, she said. The cubs held up their paws. They were dirty with grease. But there were no cuts, no burns, no injuries at all. You are truly unharmed? Velsara asked. Yes, mother, all three cubs said together. And you feel you learned valuable things? Yes, mother. Velsara stood and turned to Marcus. I am conflicted. By our culture, what you did today is unforgivable. You put cubs in danger. You allowed them to work with machinery. You treated them as if they were adults. Marcus felt his heart sink. He was about to get in serious trouble. But, Velsara continued, I cannot ignore the results. I cannot ignore what I see. My cubs are unharmed. They are happy. They are excited about learning. And they have gained more practical knowledge in 6 hours than in months of traditional education. She looked at the other adults. I'm going to make a decision that may anger some of you. I am going to allow this to continue. What? Dralvor said. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious, Velsara said. Under supervision. With strict rules. But I want my cubs to continue learning from Engineer Marcus. I want to see where this leads. This is madness, Kessa said. It violates every principle of cub rearing. Perhaps, Velsara said. Or perhaps our principles need to be examined. Perhaps the humans have something to teach us about raising young. She looked at Marcus. But I will be watching, constantly. If my cubs are harmed even slightly, this experiment ends immediately. Fair enough, Marcus said. He was amazed. He had expected to be banned from the station, not given permission to continue. I want to observe the rest of the repair process, Velsara said. I want to see exactly how you teach, how you maintain safety, how you balance risk and learning. You're welcome to watch, Marcus said. In fact, it might be better if you're here. The cubs will probably behave better with their mother present. We always behave, Pip said indignantly. Everyone laughed, even Dralvor. The tension in the bay eased slightly. I still think this is wrong, Dralvor said. But I will trust your judgment, Commander. For now. He and Kessa left, both looking troubled. Velsara pulled up a chair and sat down near the safe zone. Continue your work, Engineer Marcus. I will observe. Marcus looked at the three cubs. They were vibrating with excitement. They had won. They got to keep learning. Okay, team, Marcus said. We still have a lot of work to do. The plasma coils need to be replaced. The electrical system needs testing. And we need to install that new coupling. Everyone ready? Ready! The cubs shouted together. Marcus smiled and turned back to the engine. Behind him, he could feel Velsara watching everything. He knew he was being judged, but he also knew he was doing the right thing. Kids learn by doing. That was true whether they were human cubs or Cravathi cubs. Zik, start a new section in your notes, Marcus said. Label it Plasma Coil Replacement. Pip, I need the small socket wrench. Mira, I'm going to need you to check some tight spaces again. But first, we're all going to talk about electrical safety. Everyone listening? Yes, Marcus, the cubs said, and they got back to work. The next 4 hours passed in a blur of work, teaching, and careful supervision. Marcus replaced the damaged plasma coils with Zix documenting every step. Pip learned the difference between wire strippers and wire cutters by actually using them under strict guidance. Mira checked 6 different tight connections, reporting back on each one with growing confidence. Velsara watched everything. At first, she sat rigidly in her chair, her ears flat and her tail tense. Every time one of her cubs picked up a tool, she would flinch. Every time they got close to the engine, she would lean forward as if ready to leap up and pull them away. But gradually, she began to relax. She saw how Marcus never let the cubs do anything without explaining it first, how he demonstrated each task before letting them try, how he stood close, ready to intervene if needed, but also gave them space to work. She saw how her cubs were learning, really learning, not just memorizing facts from a screen, but understanding how things worked through direct experience. Why do the plasma coils need to be this specific size? Six asked at one point. Because the plasma needs to flow at a specific rate, Marcus explained. Too small and the pressure builds up and the coil explodes. Too large and the plasma moves too slow and the engine doesn't generate enough power. It's all about balance, balance, Zix repeated, writing it down. Everything in engineering is about balance. Pretty much, Marcus agreed. Force and resistance, power and control, speed and safety, risk and caution. Velsara's ears perked up at that last one. Risk and caution. Not risk or caution. Both together. Maybe she thought that was what the humans understood that her people had forgotten. By hour 9 of the repair, the shuttle engine was nearly complete. Marcus had installed the new coupling, replaced the plasma coils, rewired 3 damaged circuits, and cleaned every single fuel injector. The Cubs had helped with all of it. Okay, Marcus said, wiping sweat from his forehead. It's time for the moment of truth. We're going to power up the engine. Just a little bit. Just enough to test if everything works. Is that dangerous? Mira asked. It can be, Marcus said honestly. If I made a mistake, if something is connected wrong, the engine could malfunction. That's why everyone needs to stand way back, behind the safety barrier, including you, Commander. Velsara nodded and guided her Cubs behind a thick, transparent barrier designed to protect observers from accidents. Marcus double-checked all his connections. Then he walked to the control panel and placed his hand on the ignition switch. Here goes nothing, he muttered. He pressed the switch. The engine hummed. It was a soft sound at first, then gradually louder. The plasma coils began to glow with a soft blue light. The fuel injectors clicked in rhythm. The coupling, the one Mira had disconnected, held firm under pressure. All the readings on Marcus's diagnostic tablet showed green. The engine was working perfectly. We did it, Pip shouted, bouncing up and down. We fixed it. We really fixed it. Zix was grinning so wide his fangs showed. Mira was doing a little dance, her tail making happy swirls in the air. Marcus shut down the engine and turned to face them. He was smiling too. Great work, team, he said. Seriously, you 3 were amazing assistants. Can we help you again? Mira asked eagerly. Next time you fix something? Marcus looked at Velsara. That's up to your mother. Velsara was quiet for a long moment. She looked at her Cubs. They were filthy, exhausted, and radiantly happy. They had worked for hours on a complex task. They had learned things she would have thought impossible for Cubs their age, and they were completely unharmed. We need to talk, Velsara said. All of us. But yes, I think this can continue, in some form. Over the next 2 days, word spread through Station Kepler 9 about what had happened in the maintenance bay. The story grew with each retelling. A human had let Cubs work on a shuttle engine, the commander's own Cubs. They had used real tools, crawled into dangerous spaces, and they had loved every minute of it. The reaction was divided. Some Cravathi were horrified. They said Marcus was corrupting their young, teaching them bad habits, putting them in danger. A petition was started to have him removed from the station, but other Cravathi were curious. They came to the maintenance bay to see for themselves. They watched as Marcus taught the Cubs about various systems. They saw the safety measures, the careful instruction, the obvious joy the Cubs felt. One mother, a Cravathi named Sira, approached Marcus timidly. My son is very interested in computers, she said. He asks questions constantly, but I do not know how to answer them. In our traditional education system, computer science is not taught until adolescence. Could you perhaps show him how things work? Under supervision, of course. Marcus looked at Velsara, who had become his unofficial liaison with the Cravathi community. She nodded slightly. I can do that, Marcus said. Bring him by tomorrow. I'm going to be upgrading some of the station's data servers. He can watch and ask questions. Word spread. More parents came. Not many. The majority still found the idea too radical, too dangerous. But enough. Soon Marcus had a small group of young Cravathi who came to the maintenance bay after their regular schooling. He taught them about engineering, electronics, and problem-solving. He gave them small, safe tasks. He answered their endless questions. Velsara watched it all. She also did something unprecedented. She began talking to other Cravathi leaders about changing their educational system, not abandoning their values of safety and protection, but adding elements of hands-on learning, supervised risk-taking, practical experience. It was a slow process. Most Cravathi resisted the change, but a few listened. A few began to wonder if maybe the humans had a point. 3 weeks after the initial engine repair, Marcus received clearance for a test flight. His shuttle was fully repaired and ready to return to service. He filed a flight plan and prepared for departure. The morning of the test flight, he found 3 small Cravathi waiting in the maintenance bay. Zix, Pip, and Mira sat in a neat row, their tails curled around their paws. They looked serious. "What's up?" Marcus asked. "We made something for you," Zix said. He held up a small object wrapped in cloth. "To say thank you." Marcus took the wrapped object. It was surprisingly heavy. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a tool, a wrench carved from a single piece of dark wood. It was beautiful. The handle was carved with intricate patterns, Cravathi symbols that he didn't understand but could tell were meaningful. "We each carved part of it," Pip explained. "Zix did the handle. I did the grip. Mira did the head." "It is not as good as a metal tool," Mira said apologetically, "but Mother said it is traditional to give a teacher a carved tool. It symbolizes passing knowledge from one generation to the next." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He blinked rapidly. This is amazing. "Thank you, all of you. Will you come back?" Pip asked. "To the station? Will you teach us more things?" "I'll come back," Marcus promised. "My supply route brings me here every month. I'll always have time for you 3. Velsera appeared in the doorway. "It is time," she said. "Your flight window opens soon." Marcus nodded. He carefully packed the carved wrench in his personal bag. Then he looked at the cubs one last time. "Keep learning," he said. "Keep asking questions. Keep being brave." "We will," they said together. The test flight was scheduled for mid-morning. Marcus had filed a flight plan that would take him on a short loop around the station before heading back to Earth. He sat in the pilot seat and ran through his pre-flight checklist. Everything was green. All systems nominal. "Control, this is Shuttle 7 requesting clearance for departure," Marcus said into his comm. "Shuttle 7, you are cleared for departure," the station controller responded. "Have a safe flight, Engineer Marcus." "Thanks, Control." Marcus engaged the engines. They purred to life. The sound was perfect. No stuttering, no grinding, just smooth, even power. The Cubs had helped build this. They had been part of making it perfect. As the shuttle lifted off from the landing pad, Marcus glanced at his sensors. He saw a group of Cravathi gathered at the observation deck. He zoomed in with his external cameras. There they were. Zix, Pip, and Mira, with Velsera standing behind them. All 4 were watching his departure. "Control requesting permission for a flyby past observation deck 7, Marcus said. There was a pause. "That's unusual, but granted. Stay at least 100 meters from the station hull." "Understood." Marcus adjusted his course. The shuttle swung around the station in a graceful arc. As he passed the observation deck, he triggered the engine test sequence. The plasma coils flared bright blue, creating a beautiful light show. It was completely unnecessary for the test flight. But Marcus knew the Cubs would love it. He was right. Even through the cameras, he could see them jumping and pointing excitedly. Velsera was smiling. Actually smiling. Marcus completed his loop around the station and set course for Earth. As he left the station behind, he thought about what had happened over the past weeks. He had fixed an engine, but more than that, he had maybe planted a seed. A seed that said,